I am Ramon. I still wake at night to the taste of that pond water in my mouth, though I never drank it. I still hear the hollow sound of a man trying to breathe out his own name. What I tell you now happened in our village, and I was there, up close, pulling at hands, listening to cries. This is how the night went, told as I remember it. We are a small place near the paddy fields, Awliapur, in Bakerganj, Barishal. People know each other by the sound of their footsteps. On that day a man came to us from Badarpur in Patuakhali. His name was Abul Kalam Mridha, 48 years old. For weeks he had not been right. He would walk at odd hours, speak to the air, tremble as if cold when pots were steaming on the stove. His family was frightened. They said he was under a jinn. They brought him to Riaz, who people called a fakir, an exorcist. I watched them lead Kalam across the thin path to Riaz's courtyard. We sat in a circle that day, a ring of low lamps and heavy quiet. Kalam did not look like the man I knew. His hands shook so hard his rice bowl rattled. Once, his eyes rolled white, and he began to groan in a voice that seemed too big for his body. His wife clutched at her scarf and kept repeating, "He is not himself." Someone said they had seen him speaking words that were not his own language. Fear moved through us like a cold wind. The exorcist, Riaz, spoke calmly at first, reading verses and passing his hand over Kalam's chest. The neighbors repeated the phrases. But the more the old man tried, the worse Kalam became. He kicked, he spat, he bared his teeth. Then they beat him. I saw men use sticks, not to hurt him for being bad, but because they were sure force would make this spirit leave. They thought pain would teach the unseen to loosen its hold. They decided to use water. I remember the pond, small, green at the edges with thin weed, a place children sometimes threw stones in summer. The air was already heavy with mosquitoes and the smell of wet earth. Riaz called for the pond water and began to pour it on Kalam, then forced his face close and made him drink. The first time they dunked him, it seemed the crowd held its breath with the water. He was taken down to the surface and then pulled up coughing. They said the jinn spat him back out. Some of us thought perhaps the water would wash the thing away. They dunked him again later in the afternoon. He was beaten between these two dunkings. By the time the sun went low, his body looked broken. Those exact dunkings, once in the morning and again later, were what we all spoke of in the days after. Riaz told Kalam's wife that he was getting better and sent her home to rest. She left at night thinking her husband would recover. I remember the look on her face when she turned, tired, hopeful, rubbing her hands to keep warm. We stayed behind, cleaning and muttering prayers. The lamps in the courtyard burned low and flickered, throwing our shadows long against the mud wall. We thought sleep might bring healing. Morning arrived with a neighbor's shout. I ran before I knew I was running. There, in the small garden by Riaz's sister's house, Anika's house, lay Kalam. He was not breathing. He was cold. He was not the man we had tried to save. He was a body someone else had placed on the grass. People pressed around, crying and calling his name. I touched his wrist. Nothing. We shouted for the police. They came and then took him to the hospital for an autopsy. The memory of that pond and his face lingers, the eyes fixed open toward a sky that had not witnessed what we had done. Police questioned everyone. The story changed in whispers. The neighbors said that Kalam had been beaten with sticks, that Riaz and his associates had dunked him at about 10 o'clock in the morning and again at around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and that afterwards he was taken inside and left. The police detained Anika Begum, Riaz's sister, for interrogation while they hunted for Riaz and the others involved. The officers told us they had sent the body to Barishal Shuri Bangla Medical College Hospital for a post-mortem. I remember how small and useless our hands felt as officials took measurements and photographs. No prayer could bring the breath back. People asked what had gone wrong. Some said it was a jinn, as the family believed. Others said Kalam must have been mentally unwell and that we had done him a terrible wrong in the name of faith. The doctors and the police could not say whether a spirit had lived inside him. What they did say was clearer. He had been beaten and drowned. His body bore the marks of that night. The rest, Whether any spirit lived inside him or whether his strange behavior was illness, was left to argue in doorways and in the rows of the mosque. In the days that followed, I walked past the pond and saw the weeds trampled and the muddy prints of many feet. The garden where we had lain him quiet was still, the soil pressed where we had stood. People moved differently after that. Some refused to visit Riaz's house. Others whispered of punishment for the ones who had forced a man into the water. The exorcist's name was spoken in anger now, not reverence. We had wanted to save a life, and instead we had ended it. There is a part of this story that is simple and cannot be changed. A man named Abul Kalam Mridha, aged 48, went to an exorcist because his family believed a jinn had taken him. In the name of driving out that spirit, he was beaten and forcibly drowned in a pond, more than once, and later his lifeless body was found in a nearby garden. Police investigated, detained people for questioning, and sent the body for autopsy. These are facts. They were written in the reports, and they were what we all had to live with afterward. But there is another part, the feeling we cannot print in a police file. I remember Kalam's wife calling his name into the empty dawn, a wail that pulled at the air like a hand. I remember the way the pond looked the next day, ordinary, like a mouth that had closed. I remember thinking, with a shame that burned hotter than sun, that we had used violence because we were afraid of illness, of shame, of not knowing what to do. The ritual that was supposed to bring relief brought death. If you sit by a pond on a quiet night, you can imagine the scene, a ring of lamps, men with sticks, the quick cold of the water, and a man caught between life and belief. I tell you this because it happened to us, and because fear shared becomes a warning. We did not know better then. We claimed to fight a spirit, but what died was a human being. This is a true story. It happened in Awliapur, Barishal, and the victim was Abul Kalam Mridha. Police reports and local news recorded the events, the forced dunkings, the beatings, the discovery of his body, the detention of those involved, and the autopsy that followed. I speak for myself, Rahman, a man who saw and who still carries the sound of that night. Let it be a warning. Sometimes the darkest things are not the ones we call spirits, but the hands we use when we are afraid.